Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Physical Therapy Private Practice Secrets of the Top 10%. My name is Brian Gallagher. I'm your host, and this week we're going to dive right in. This is going to be an action-packed show. We're going to do some tennis match here. We're going to be battering things back and forth. I've got Jimmy with me. I'm going to let Jimmy do his formal introduction, let you guys learn all about him. As you know, we're just off the heels of PPS, and we are going to tie into the staffing shortage. And so we're going to do 3 solutions from Jimmy, 3 solutions from me. We're going to stick with a format that he is very familiar with. I love it. It's the 6-pack. And here's Jimmy.
Brian, thank you. I don't know if I'm in the top 10% of anything, but I am eager to figure out how to be in the top 10% of something. I usually introduce myself. I've gone through this sort of like evolution of how people introduce themselves. Like in professional settings, a lot of time, this would be the moment where I like give you like my resume or my CV in verbal form. I tell people I make good work well known. So that's what I do. How do I do that? Depends on who needs the help. So I help large organizations like parts of APTA, chapters, sections, academies, what have you, communicate to their members and potential members. So that's making good work well known. I might work with a private practice and they might say, hey, we want to either hire more people or we might want to find more patients. And I'm like, well, you don't need, my goal is to make good work well known. And if your work is good and it's well known, a PT will want to work with you or a patient would want to get treatment from you. So I get to do that. Why do I feel like I'm qualified to do that? Like who gave me the right? I was a radio broadcaster. I was an intern for Howard Stern back in the day and ran radio stations and was a radio DJ for close to 15 years. My mom at a young age said I had the face for radio and I went with it. I just went completely with it and I dove in. So did radio. And then in 2008, this thing came out for the podcast listeners. I am holding an iPhone and I realized one big concept, which is time and space aren't going to matter in the future. Brian and I are talking. It's November 8th, but you might be listening to that a couple days from now, right?
Right.
But Brian, where are you, Brian?
I'm in North Georgia.
You're in North Georgia. I'm in New York. So time and space don't matter. Where are you right now, listener? When are you right now, listener? So I sort of saw that, and then I saw radio wasn't pivoting. I then said, well, if your career exploded tomorrow, what would you do? I was training for my first Ironman triathlon, and I was hanging out with a lot of PTs, and I was like, you guys seem cool. And I quite literally didn't do a ton of research. I just started going to school, and I liked it. Got to PT and saw a lot of great PTs are great at what they're great at. And what they don't think of first is, well, how do I make sure people know what they get out of me, my organization, my company, whatever that might be? So I say, you should make your good work well known. Well, I don't know how to do that. Great, I do. So I can either teach someone how to do it or I help them do it for them. But at the bottom line, I begin and end with, I make good work well known.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly said. It's so funny you said that because for years and years, I mean, going back at least 2 decades now, I've been saying, the definition of public relations is making good deeds well known, right? So that's the way I was taught. I was taught that that's actually a definition. That was a definition I was given. And I was
Who gave that to you?
That's right. Well, that was part of my consulting training that I got way back when,
See,
and so I was like,
I got similar advice. Mine was more like I remember it. This was 1998. I got it because I went to a Catholic university, a Franciscan friar, brown robe, rope around his waist, asked that question to a bunch of budding communications professionals and said, who here in this lecture hall can give me the definition of public relations? And I thought in my head, this is a trap. Do not answer this question, right? So then, of course, people are throwing answers, trying to impress the professor. I don't. I wait because I'm like, as Admiral Akbar in Star Wars said, it's a trap. And eventually he said, listen, children, the goal of public relations is to build a relationship with the public. The answer is in the question. So that's when I realized the answer is usually in the question.
That's right.
Thank you, Brother Basil, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. That is really cool. So you really went to a school like that?
I went to St. Bonaventure University, which not all the professors were Franciscan friars, but we had friars live on campus. They would show up. If when you had a cool party at Bonaventure is if you could get a brother to show up, because they would hang and drink beers. Like Franciscans were also known for being brewers, but if you could get a friar to come to your party off campus, status. Because then the pictures alone are worth their weight in gold.
So this is a first for me for sure. I had no idea you had that going on in campus. That takes it to a whole nother level. Yeah. If you could pull a party off like that, that's a party.
Cool enough for a brother to want to come. That's
right. That's what I mean. Cool enough for a friar to be there. Yep. You're doing something right. You're definitely doing something right. Oh man, that's so cool. Well, you know what? Look, I think the public's really needing to hear what we have to share with them today and on this episode, because I went to PPS and you weren't there, were you? You didn't happen to make it to
I didn't go this year. How was it?
It was, I was just thinking about it because I just did a recap of it and I went on this big rant, right? And so Rachel had to clean it up because I got unhinged on it a little bit. So Rachel dialed it down and brought it back a little bit. But the reason why I was a little unhinged was because, and hopefully I got to keep this in check so she doesn't freak out on me again. Look, I was like, do we all need to fly all the way across the country to sit here for 3 days and get a reality check? I mean, is that really what we need? Because, I did a sponsor session. I had about 50 people in the room. And I said, how many of you are struggling with, procuring your next great physical therapist for your practice? All the hands went up. How many of you are struggling with decreased reimbursement and your net margins, your net revenue, your profits all the hands went up. I said, how many of you are struggling with getting new patients? Surprisingly, nobody's hand went up. I mean, literally nobody. Like nobody lifted a hand. I was like, nobody's struggling with getting more new patients. It's like the focused attention, 3 years ago, just prior to COVID, it was all about getting more new patients, right? It was like, or you go through 2020, 2021, which we all know what happened during that period of time. We were all overstaffed. Now we're all understaffed. Now there's 26,000 chairs that are sitting empty every single day, needing a physical therapist in it that we don't have. So I'm like, so to answer your question, I'm like, the reality check is the income squeeze, or in many cases that is led into or brought to birth by the staffing shortage, right? So that's really it. I mean, if you have more staff, better quality people delivering better services, you're going to solve all these other problems. And that's what I want to talk about is the staffing shortage. PBS was a reality check, and there was a newspaper given, and there was other talks, and everything was about how it's the worst of the worst. And I graduated in 1992, and I can tell you in 92, from 93 to 95 or 93 to 97, I think there was about a 40,000 person shortage of therapists at that time. So it was worse than what it is now, and yet everyone's like, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. So Jimmy, I think coming off PPS, I just want to throttle it back to reality. Like, this isn't the worst times a physical therapy private practice has. This isn't the worst situation that you could possibly be in. So you need to find some innovative ways and creative ways to think outside the box post-pandemically on how to attract some new staff, hire staff, retain staff, keep staff, grow around the staff, all the stuff that they need to hear. But it's not, man, I'm not a fan of using fear to sell my product or services. That's that's the bottom line, honestly.
Well, I when that sort of statement comes up is, I can typically spot why things aren't resonating. Again, I make good work well known. I don't like to make crappy work well known. So step one is, do you have a good product? That's why I'm a physical therapist. I swear I passed all the tests. I have the license and everything. And then I say, how are you communicating? Who are you communicating to? Why are you communicating? What value are you bringing? What value do they need? Right. And a lot of times I can spot the reason that they're not. And again, finding a patient or finding a therapist, to me, it's a beginning with a person and ending with a person. And it's a message. Do you have a good enough message? Do you have good work? Yes. How are you making it well known? Most of the time, here's the pitfall. Pitfall one. Have you ever heard this phrase, Brian? Friends with features? No, the phrase is friends with benefits. Right. It's friends with benefits. Right. Friends with features isn't a thing. College kids these days aren't like, I have a friend with feature. Like, tell me about that. He just tells me how great he is. And then I tell him how great I am. And then we go part ways. No, it's about benefits. Right. Yeah. So I can't wait to tell you, Brian, how many hours I spent getting my DPT and how many courses I went to and how many letters I have to write. Can't wait to tell you about the AlterG treadmill, man. You got to see this thing. It's got this many watts and it'll go this many miles an hour. And I'm like, that sounds like a great friend with features. Congratulations. Yeah. Do you know what? I don't want to be a friend with feature. I want benefits. I want you to talk about me, because Brian, if you talk about me, I will listen to you all day. So most of the time I can solve that problem real quick. Steal this one. This one's free. It's simple, not easy. I'll tell you that much. But start talking more about them, stop talking about yourself. If I walked into a bar, I wanted to get the attention of a young lady, and I went and I told her 9 things about me, do you think I'm getting a phone number? The answer should be hard no. I'm not. But if you ask 3 intelligent questions and start a conversation, which might lead to a relationship,
right,
it's better. So be a friend with benefits.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, because everybody wants to go right to the doingness, right? They want to go right to the doingness of the problem. The problem is Brian, I've been looking for a therapist for 6 months. I don't have a therapist. I'm stepping in. I'm working 55 hours a week. I'm missing dinners with my family, my kids. My life is being tanked. I need to hire people. And so they think their problem is procuring, like the advertisements to get the reach, the actual sit down and closing them at the interview junction. Really, the problem is more about it's the beingness. It's the beingness. Are you being more interesting or more interested? If you spend more time being more interested than interesting, you've got them. Who doesn't want to talk about themselves?
I'll yes and this. If you want to appear more interesting, I think you need to be more interested.
Exactly.
Ask me about me.
1,000 times.
You want to know how I sound smart? Brian, I've done 1,200 podcast interviews, right? You Google podcast and physical therapy, my show comes up. That's fantastic. Do I think it's because of my stunning wit and my face for radio? No, I show up and I ask smart people questions. And here's the kicker. I shut up long enough for them to answer. That's how I look smart at dinner parties, is I ask questions. I don't answer them. I ask them. Do that in different ways, in pictures, in videos, in sounds, in words. Do that
agree more.
Forever.
And who doesn't want to be around a person like that? Who doesn't want to spend their time with somebody
who's
more? Yeah.
All right, but we need tactics, right? So we're not poo-pooing the fact that there's a staffing shortage. There is. We can go into reasons. That's a different episode of why that is. But I want people, that's why I like this format, which is we put a question down between Brian and I, which is solve the staffing shortage. And then we didn't interact. We did not share notes, right? I want you coming from your lived experience interactions. You were just at PPS. I didn't go this year, but you got a whole life, the other 364 days that you're not at PPS. I'm going to bring 3, you bring 3, and maybe there's crossover. That's kind of cool. Sort of validates the suggestion. But I want to go with the idea and talk about it, what it might cost, how it might actually get into play. Give these solutions that I'm going to bring anyway. They're simple. Doesn't mean they're easy, because if you want biceps, you got to do curls. Like, this is a great idea, but if you don't act, and most of you won't, that's why this is the top 10%, you can beat 90% by doing something. Nothing or something, you decide.
So now we got clients, we got therapists out there listening to the show who want, therapists with biceps. So let's talk about the curls. Let's talk about we want
who's going first?
With biceps. Let's go. You go. You're the guest.
Number 1. So my 3 suggestions are going to have a theme, right? So you're going to see it's going to start from within. I want you to do, and this is an exercise. And again, in PT school, it was all about reflection exercises, and I hated them. I do more reflecting now than I ever had, because the damn thing works and it's good. So my first suggestion, you want to solve the staffing shortage in this profession or at your clinic, I want you to look within first. So this is about a self-assessment. I want you to actually honestly sit down, turn your phone off, close your planner, close all the tabs. I want you to do a self-assessment. I want you to identify your internal strengths and weaknesses. You could do it as a SWOT analysis. You could do it as something called a USP analysis, your unique selling point. What makes you good? What are you good at? What are you bad at? What do you like doing? What do you hate doing? Right? Write those things down. It seems like these are obvious. Are they though? Have you actually done this exercise? Again, you want biceps, you got to do the exercise. So a self-assessment, you start from within. Clinics can do this as an individual, right? Clinicians, or as a whole, because you're all falling under a brand, right? But you're all unique brands. So what are we good at? What's our self-assessment? Let's identify internal strengths and gaps, right? Talk about these things like a SWOT analysis, right? Highlight the importance of staff feedback. What are these people? Imagine you using something you're not utilizing something you have on your team already. Missed opportunity. So for this, minimal cost involved, not nothing, because this is time. We know time is money, right? Yeah. But mainly it's time and effort and actually doing this exercise. Again, the bottom 90% are going to nod at this and listen, and they're going to go, that's a good idea, Jimmy. That's great. They're not going to do it. Just by doing this, you could be in the top 10%. Could involve staff training. Like this could be done one-on-one or one as a group. The way I do this is one as a group, separate, come up with your own ideas, come back together. I like people to chew on something, digest, and come back with me. So my first suggestion is it starts with you, because as Taylor Swift, who by the way is a marketing genius, says, hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. It might be you. You might just be messaging what you're good at wrong, or maybe you haven't thought about it. And that is a mistake for $0 that I know you should be starting with. So my
absolutely
first
the starting spot. Yep.
Self-assessment.
That's perfect. Awesome. I love the self-assessment. And I think not enough people do that. I think they are also wrapped up in the equipment they have sitting over there in the gym, or, the location of their clinic, or the fancy stuff that they bought, or the fact they've been in business X number of years, or whatever, or they get sucked into the whole market of, oh, we got to throw in sign-on bonuses, or we got to throw money. We got to shower people with green paper with dead presidents. I'm telling you, everyone's pumping that out. That's not what's going to make you different.
Race to the bottom. You're going to race to the bottom. Great. That's right. So you've now created a bigger problem. Now you're paying someone who isn't in good alignment.
Yeah, right. And it's funny. People often say, most businesses will say people get attracted or join businesses, groups, companies, organizations based on the brand, based on how it feels to them. Sure. The limbic side of their brain. It feels like I want to be a part of this group. It feels like the right place. I got the right vibe. But people leave organizations because of bad management. So the managers are the reason why people leave, but the brand and the 30,000 foot view is why people come. So talk about that. Talk about that. Why?
So I want to go deeper on that. I agree with you. So I agree. People come because Seth Godin said it. I'll find the quote later, or someone will correct me, because that's what people do when I say things wrong, which is great about podcasts. People buy stories, magic, and possibilities, right? And then they get there, and the thing that I bought, the thing on the outside of the cereal box, doesn't taste like the thing on the inside of the cereal box. That's misaligned expectations. That's why I think the self-assessment is good. Because if you're using a certain bait and catching a certain fish, then you get that fish and you're like, this doesn't align with what I wanted to eat. That's on you. You caught the wrong fish because you started with the wrong bait, because you didn't ask yourself, start with the end in mind, right? Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
What are we actually looking for? Write it down, because a lot of times what you think you are assuming, and we know that whole assume and you and me thing. You're assuming what is right and good, and that is on you. And we know what a bad hire costs. We know that. We can figure that out, right? It's not good. I think it starts with you, and this is low to no cost. That self-assessment.
That's an awesome first step. What's the second step?
I want yours. I'm going to go back and forth. I want your first.
Okay. Well, I think, look, if you're hiring somebody who's looking for a job, then they're just working for you for the paycheck. All right. If you hire somebody who aligns with your purpose and the reason why you're doing what you're doing, you've got a loyal, committed individual. So my second step would be define your purpose. My thing would be define your purpose, define your why, and make sure that it's in 3D. 3D. Okay. Like people have to see it, feel it, touch it. It can't be words. It can't be something written down. It can't be something sitting on a shelf or on our board or on our wall. It can't. It has to be like what you truly believe in, because people want to look. Leadership isn't getting a position title and I'm now the leader because look, they gave me this title. They posted me as I'm director of God knows whatever you want to be. Leadership is that person with whom people will follow.
Correct.
And they'll follow you because they believe in you. So if you want someone to take the job, you want someone to accept this position, it's only going to be because they believe in your mission, they believe in your cause, they believe in your purpose. And it's got to be represented in your practice. It's got to be represented in your staff. And that's what I mean by 3D. In your staff, in your heart, and how you conduct yourself, and in your physical environment. So that's my second one right there.
I like it.
Lead with your purpose and make it 3D.
And I would say, well, how would you define your purpose? I would say step one, do a self-assessment to make sure your purpose is aligned with everybody. All right. So my second suggestion, that's hard to follow. My second assessment, first one is about yourself. Second one is now about the audience. Now, here's the cool part is we're talking about solving the staffing shortage. This audience, since you've just assessed yourself, you can change these audiences. For this particular example, it's about people you're looking to bring into your organization to be part of it, to join the same mission. So I would say audience assessment. Sometimes it's called like an avatar creation. In my last radio station, we talked about Keith several times a day. Would Keith think this song is cool? Would Keith want to go to this? Would Keith like this? Because we had designed Keith. We knew where he was from, the fact that he went to high school in Northeast Pennsylvania, went away to college and came back, married his high school sweetheart, that sort of thing. So we understood who our audience was. Mm-hmm. I like to say, I want to know their bads and goods. Bads and goods are barriers, things that prevent me from becoming who I want to be, things that are roadblocks. These are all a lot of times cheat code to get a good list of bad and goods. Talk in emotion words. Make sure there's an emotion tied to that, because we know that facts tell, emotions sell. You're selling time where you're going to spend a lot of time to come work with and for this organization. So a lot of times it's understanding what in terms of bads and goods. And this pairs nicely. When you understand your audience's bads and goods, right? Their hopes and dreams and their roadblocks, and you understand your self-assessment, your value, and you bring those two things together, it creates a Venn diagram. You got one circle crossing over the other. Wherever those two things cross is your shared why. Simon Sinek made a whole career on start with why. I was going to
say the discovery, right?
If it's in your shared why, you need, not should, you need to be talking about it over and over and over. If it's not in that shared why, I don't understand why you're speaking about it. Why are you commenting on it? Why are you creating content about it? Why are you bringing it up? Yeah. If it's in that shared why, it should be the soundtrack that plays in people's minds when they see your logo, or they see Brian walk by, or they see anything. So this is understanding who the audience is, who you want them to be. That comes from the self-assessment, and then figuring out their bads and goods. Now you're in their head, and hopefully you can win and earn their heart.
Absolutely. That is the most important thing. Why would I listen to something that I don't gel with, right? Why is it, how is this benefiting me? Right?
Correct.
Benefiting us. It's a relationship. It's like anything. I'm not going to get married for somebody who's going to just, contribute to all my needs and wants, and they're not getting any of the balanced, reciprocating time, love, and attention back to them. It's got to be a mutually built relationship on core values that we both share. If you don't know what those are on the other audience, it's funny. I saw, a YouTube short, and it was on hiring, and this woman, take it for what it is, but she was saying, the average new grad at 24 years old is going to change jobs 4 times between 24 and 32. Do you think they're really interested in a retirement plan? They could give 2 hoots about a retirement plan in the 24 to 32 window. They're not thinking retirement at all. They're like trying to get a car, trying to get a good apartment, trying to get their security deposit, saved up. They're looking to get their student loans handled. They're looking, their immediate pain points are as far as they can see. So everybody's out there trying to hire people, say, oh, we got a matching 401k. And meanwhile, it's just like falling on deaf ears. So it's exactly what you're saying.
Those are features too. 401k is a feature. A benefit is become the therapist you've always wanted to be. Right. Be the guide, not the hero. If this story is about you, hey, Brian, tell me about you. Like, why should I work here? Well, Jimmy, I've been in business 25 years and I started this from the ground up, and Exactly. Cool story, bro. Tell it again, but tell it to someone else, because I want to see what's in it for me. Right. So talk to me about me. Now that doesn't mean the story can't include you. So I want to preface it by like almost asterisking this. When I work with individuals, practices, or big organizations, and I say, be the guide, not the hero, they're like, so the story doesn't have us in it at all? I said, Star Wars wouldn't be very good without Yoda. Like, he played the role. Now, keep in mind, and of course, Disney's going to eventually do this. There will be a movie where Yoda is the origin story. And I cannot wait for that, because he's one of my favorite characters. But Yoda plays the guide role for Luke. He understood that. He didn't sit around and tell Luke how many bad guys he slayed. He walked in and was like, I understand you want to go from here to become a Jedi. You want to go from lost to found. I do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that you said, you give people, people don't want to be around people who don't have a proven track record of success. I mean, we're not saying that. We're not saying don't include some of the track record of success, because that's a scorecard of performance, right? And people want to be on the winning team.
Totally. Yeah. I have a Jeep, right? It's red. It's got 4 doors. It's got a hard top. Feature. right?
Right.
Benefits, red. What's the benefit of red? The benefit of red is, Jimmy, when you roll into town, everybody notices you. Now, if you want that, that's what this will deliver, right? There's an emotion. It's 4 doors. 4 doors is a feature. What's the benefit of that? What's the emotion? Dude, all your friends, they're going to fit nice and easy. You're the party on wheels, right?
Yeah.
It's got a hard top that comes off. That's a feature. What's the benefit? Go from covered to wind in your hair in 90 seconds.
Yep.
Sell them what they want. How do I get that? Make them ask how. Dude, this thing comes equipped with a hairstyling machine. Wind in your hair in 90 seconds. How do I get that? Oh, it's a hard top, but it comes off nice, easy with these 9 bolts. Make them ask before you give them the features. Sell benefits, features follow.
That's right. Absolutely. And if you're not doing these assessments, you're just talking your own features, whether it's something they want or something they don't want, right?
This is why you're getting, look, we are taught right now on how to ignore, right? If you are not talking about me, you spent 6 days creating that reel because you're so witty and it's about you. Watch how fast I ignore you, right? People say attention spans are shrinking. They're not. We got choices, right?
Yeah.
Gen Z isn't lazy. They have options. That's why they're ignoring you. You keep talking about you. The guy across the street is talking about himself. They're ignoring him. The girl down the hall, the girl down the street is talking about them. That's why they're working there.
That's right. Nail on the head there. That's perfect, man. That is perfect.
I got lost.
So I guess it's my turn, right?
Your turn. Okay, I got lost.
Yeah, it's my turn. All right. Well, I want to get into some mechanics. I want to give a mechanical answer because sometimes people are like, okay, guys, I'm hearing what you're saying. I get what you're throwing down there, but that's when we're having a dialogue. That's when we got them in front of us. That's when we're conversing. How do I get them? How do I get them to reach? Right. So here's one of the successful actions I found. I learned this some decade or so ago. I'm a bit older than you, Jimmy. So I've been around and I heard this. Fortune 500 company said, hey, we get our best response from all the ads that always open with a question. Open with a question. You write a question like, hey, are you GM's next senior financial analyst? ? Well, the first, 5 seconds somebody reads the ad, they're like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I am. And now you're getting them engaged because you engage them with a question instead of benefit statement. And then you say, well, then you go on to try to communicate with them where they're at, right? So the question gets them to be interested to read on into the ad. And then in the rest of the ad, you say, if you are, chances are you're interested in, or you're looking for benefits of, or you're looking for features of, or you're looking for employment options of, or an employment ladder of. I could go in any number of directions at that point. But what it is the person's got to, the more common bits of reality that they go in agreement with, the more rapport you're establishing. The more you put into that messaging that they have a point of agreement with, the more common reality, common shared reality they have, the more interested they become. It's kind of like, so, Jimmy, you go to a red carpet opening or something your wife or spouse brings you to, and you're sitting there and you're talking to the person next to you, and it's all surgeons and physical therapists, and the one therapist spouse is there, and you're like, hey, so my name's Jimmy, and the guy's like, my name's Brad. And what do you do, Brad? Well, I'm a contractor. I do plumbing and heating and air. And you're like, oh, cool. Tell me about that. The guy's not expecting that at all. And as they're talking about it, you start saying stuff like, that's fantastic. That's a skill set that is much needed and wanted in the society today. Yeah. I hope my kid goes into that profession. I just think being able to, sling some lumber and lay some electrical lines and put the lights on is it's just priceless today. That's agreement. But you could be like, oh man, that must be a challenging environment. You never know where your next meal is coming from. You got to sit. The guy's like, well, yeah, I guess so. People talk like that. Like they're just so above. And I think in the ad, if you open with a question and you put in all the common points of agreement that and what do we know? What we know is that today's generation, like there's 3 categories of therapists you're going to go after, right? The new grad, the one that's 0 to 3 years out, that's the new grad. The 3 to 8 years out is the advancing therapist, the one that's going up the employment ladder. And then the veteran therapist is anybody 9, 10 years plus, right? In each one of those buckets, they have distinctly different needs and wants. And when you write your ad, if you know what you're trying to fill, you should kind of lean it, slant it, lean into what particular need and want that particular category of therapist is that you're looking for. So in this case, if it's new grad, how would you like to have ongoing, mentorship every single month? How would you like professional enhancement days twice a month? That is a benefit or a perk that our business puts forth so that you can advance your clinical skills both manually and orthopedically at ABC Clinic. Call us to learn more about that. That's exactly what they're looking for. That's my thought. I don't think people are writing the ads right. They're writing the ads like everybody else's ad.
I can't wait to tell you about me is the quickest way to get someone to ignore you. I mean, starting with the question is fantastic, right? You bring that up, and I couldn't nod harder in case the podcast audience is wondering what I was doing in the background. Just nodding. One of the greatest ad campaigns that somehow hasn't come back around, right? Because that's what everything that's old is new again. Do you remember this one? Started with in fact, the entire ad campaign was 1 2-word question. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Just do it.
No, they're telling you what to do. This was Got Milk.
Got Milk. Oh, that's awesome.
They could have written the ad like, we've got vitamin D for strong bones, and we've got this and this, and it's helping the American farmer. But the question left a gap. Got Milk? And the audience is left to wonder, do I need that?
Yeah, that's right.
Because next to the Got Milk was always a famous person, right? With a milk mustache. So without saying this, they're saying, got milk? Because you're missing out on something. Could you I mean, this is free advice. You know what? I can't wait. Because again, 90% of you won't take this. 10% might just do it. 1% might do it well. Have you stolen Got Milk as your recruiting strategy? Change milk to one of your values or one of the audience's, your avatar's goods. Got mentorship?
Yeah.
Less is more. I mean, we had a professor in college that said, you can put 7 words on any ad. It's $1 for the 8th word, $2 for the 9th word. We double it every time because less is in fact more. So Got Milk, 2 words.
I love it.
Really I like that. Bringing them in.
That's perfect, man. That's perfect. Yeah. I'm
so
glad. Yeah.
So is it
You're up?
My third? All right. So my first was about self-assessment. My second was about the audience and that avatar assessment. My third suggestion is now in between. So you look at yourself and your audience. In between you and your intended audience is space, right? There's room to communicate a message. But keep in mind, today as we record is November 8th. And I just Googled this before we started recording, Brian. Today in history is the loudest, noisiest, busiest day in the history of the world. The most content is being shared online today compared to every day that's happened before this. Here's the problem. Tomorrow is going to be noisier. Every day this stuff is exponential. We're sharing more and more. So how do you close that gap? There's a gap between you and the audience, hopefully your intended audience. So the first thing I suggested was about you. Second was about the audience. This is about the gap. I want you to understand, to be able to clearly and concisely communicate your clinic unique offering, your USP, unique selling point, right? Understand, after you look at yourself and your audience, can you break that down into something simple, like an XYZ statement? PTs who liked physics are going to dig this one because it's all about a formula. XYZ statement, right? Got this from Jamie Schreier, smart dude. We do X so that Y can do or become Z. We do X so that Y can do or become Z. You get to add in something from you. We did that already, self-assessment. We do X so that Y, talk about your audience, say their name out loud, so that new grads, so that people with bad haircuts, right? Say your audience's name out loud, can do or become Z. Say one of their goods, right? Say one of their goods out loud. That's in one statement. If you can't communicate it quickly, forget elevator pitch. You need something that can work faster than the speed of sound, the speed of sight, the speed of scroll. So if you don't understand speed of scroll, if you can't figure out how to do it in the noisiest environment ever, I'm sure the internet will quiet down. I'm sure the person that you're trying to communicate with, I'm sure their day is going to get quieter, and they won't have, hey, just after the holidays, things will slow down. Greatest lie we tell ourselves every single year. It's not going to happen. So understand how to communicate this. Now, here's the cool tactical part, Brian. You could do this 100 different ways. You can do this in the dynamics of a success story. People love stories. Tell a story about someone who's similar to me, who did the thing that I wanted to do with you. I would love to sign up for that story. Can I be that keeps me as the hero of my story and shows me that you're the guide. Make sure you know how to communicate that faster than the speed of scroll, right? Offer tips to help the people who you're trying to communicate with become the version that they want to be. It used to be the thing of your knowledge was your value and you wanted to hoard the knowledge and not share. In 2023 and beyond, it's going to be sharing, right?
Yeah.
If my podcast had existed in the 90s, it would have been, I just send out ads and then I say, hey, $20, you can have access to all this. Well, now everything's free, right? So now your value is, how much do you actually provide? What value do you give away? And if you really want to get deep, the value of my particular podcast or yours, the audience is the product.
That's right.
Right? Because now if I wanted to get Brian to sponsor my podcast, to give a 15-second on there, Brian would say, what's the feature? Well, I've got 60 to 120,000 downloads a month in a profession of 300,000 PTs. Not too bad. The benefit is I can give you attention of 120,000 PTs twice a week, every week, and you never have to lift a finger. Would that be of value? So understand how to communicate, and the message changes when the audience changes. So my first suggestion was about yourself, your clinic. Second was about the audience, and the third is the space between.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. That's the bridge, right? That's the connector right there. The whole time you're talking, I just can't help but think about how many times I've had to answer the question to practice owners of what it takes to actually close the candidate on the position. And I'm like, it's not going to be a benefit. It's not going to be something off of your HR list. They're asking me like, is it the continuing education budget? Is it the tuition reimbursement line item I have here? Is it my 401k? Is it my health insurance coverage, my 50% coverage? And I'm like, mechanic. I'm going to throw out there my last step up into the batter's cage here. I'm give you mine. And it really falls in a really similar in alignment with what you just said, but just a slightly, I need to know their ideal scene. I literally need to know their ideal scene. What is their ideal scene? Not what is going on in their life today, because we've already covered that. We've done our assessment. We've assessed. We're aligning on purpose. We understand, offer tips and show them what the unique offerings are, like you said, which I think is really great. But I want them to know that I am striving to work with them in a way that I'm assisting them to achieve their ideal scene, both professionally and personally. And this is where I think people fall down. I think they think they're hiring a laborer. They're hiring a laborer, and you're not. You're hiring a person. And this person has personal growth and professional growth. They have personal and professional success, ideas, visions. You've got to assist them in making their visions a reality. And they need to know that that is your investment in time. And that is part of what the purpose is in your practice. I'm a big fan of building companies and incorporating a management team, encouraging and insisting them to be the best human beings that they could possibly be, and get the hell out of the way. Step aside, give them the ropes, the rooms because that's why they're part of the management team. They want to have something to manage. They don't want to be dictated to. So finding out their ideal scene, such to the extent that you should be able to say to them, when I shake your hand and I welcome you aboard, before you're ever asked from us to do anything, we hired you, there's going to be a whole list of doing this that's going to come with the position you just took. But I want you to hear it from me first. I want you to hear what I'm going to do for you. What I'm going to do for you is I'm going to commit to you right now. Thank you, Jimmy, for taking this position. Let me first share with you what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to strive hard and do my best to ensure that in 2 years, 3 years from now, you look back at this moment in time and you're able to say to yourself, this is one of the best decisions I ever made, because I not only grew professionally, I've grown as a person and as a professional as a result of accepting this position here. That's my commitment to you. Whatever that defined space is, whatever shape that is for you. For some people, it's to be OCS trained. Some people, it's to be the best manual therapist. Some people, it's to be, I want to be the best, I want to do cash-based bodies with my orthopedic sports medicine. Hey, that's your journey. But if you're joining my team and I'm throwing my jersey on you, you've got my commitment to see through this journey to your happy hunting ground, to your ideal scene. I think people need to hear that. I think that has to be well known. And so many of the other things that people are doing for hiring and recruiting and handling this staffing shortage is mechanics. Yep. I think you and I are totally hitting it on being this. It's all in here. It's all here. Yep. So, hey, Jimmy, thank you so much for spending your time here with us on this podcast. I hope the listeners have enjoyed it as much as I have. It's just been so entertaining. You're so genuine and authentic and off the cuff. Nothing is scripted. It's just right up my alley. This has been wonderful. I'm sure we'll do this again. For those of you listening, check out the notes below. You'll have links to Jimmy's podcast. Please do check him out. He does this each and every week, and he just does a bang-up job in helping each and every you individually and contributing to the positive uptrend of our profession. So as always, I'm eternally grateful and blessed that you spend your time here with us. I hope we can make a difference in your life, both personally and professionally, and that you start each and every day, as I always say, expecting to do well.